It's all about positioning with Tangi Carter, episode 103. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another great episode, guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I actually did an intro to the show when I did the recording with my guest. My guest is Tangi Carter today. And something has happened since the interview that I felt compelled to come on here and just grab a little time slot here at the beginning. So there'll be another intro. It'll sound a little weird when we cue that in. But yesterday I received, and I'm recording this on June 2nd. So on June 1st, I received a box from FedEx. It said cake inside, Mardi Gras on the box. And it was a package from Tangi with a handwritten note in it thanking me for having her on the show. And the box was filled with all kinds of goodies and treats, but it was Mardi Gras themed, so it had like face masks and beads. And it was just an overall over-the-top gesture that really took me by surprise. I don't think when I have guests on here that I'm doing anybody a favor, helping anybody. I'm just getting people that I think would be good for my audience to hear in front of my audience. I'm doing it out of service to them. So I never really think that I'm doing something for somebody else in the process. And receiving that gift has, let me know that I'm appreciated, and it makes a big difference. Not that I'm not coming here to ask anybody to do the same thing. I don't want, nor do I expect anything like that. But I think when something like that happens, to acknowledge it and acknowledge it publicly. Tangi, thank you so much. It was definitely unnecessary. It's well received, and it made an impression. It made an impact. So I just want to take this moment to acknowledge it publicly and share it with everyone, because this can be a lesson for you. You never know where a gesture like that might lead. I can tell you that we have a one-day summit coming up, and I have room for another speaker or two, trying to figure out who I want to highlight, who I want to put on there. You can be sure that after receiving that from Tangi, she is now top of mind when it comes to that. So things like that open opportunities up for you. If you're using, we're talking right now about information products, and if you were with me on the live stream last night with Ajako, we covered how, getting onto other people's podcasts is one of the ways of getting free organic access to somebody's audience that they've already built. And this is just a way to amplify that exposure, amplify that reach by establishing a even better relationship. Often a podcast guest is a one-time thing. You're on somebody's show and then you never talk to each other again. It's almost impossible. If you look at, let's say I have a guest every single week, that's 52 guests a year. For me to continue and establish relationships with all those people is an impossible feat to do. So this elevates you. It makes you rise above the rest, and it can be a game changer in your business, because it can give you opportunities that you wouldn't otherwise have. So just something to think about, that there's unique ways that you can make yourself stand out and set yourself apart from other people. And I love what Tangi did. I, in the past, highlighted Joey Vitale, who when I engaged his law firm, they sent me a similar type of package that was very well thought out as a, welcome to our law firm. We're glad to have you as a client kind of gesture. And I spoke about it on the podcast, and I don't have the episode number in front of me right now. You got to go back and look for it. But I love highlighting these actions because it gives an example of things that you can do to make yourself different, to stand out from the crowd. And that's really what we need to do. It's a noisy world today, and we need to figure out ways to stand out from the crowd, whether it be with our referral partners, whether it be with our target market, whether it be with just the platform that we stand on. So I'm going to play that interview now. It's a wonderful interview. I hope you enjoy it. And again, it's going to have a second intro welcoming you to the Profit with Law podcast. But I wanted to go back in and stick this recording in so that I can share what has transpired in between. Here you go. Enjoy the interview. Before I introduce my guest, let me just tell you, we've been going through the month of May, the month of June 2020, talking about information products and how information products can boost your success in your law firm, how they can really allow you to generate revenue from work that's already being done. You already have clients coming through the door. You already have things going on, and there's an opportunity for you to just literally put an offer out there and collect money on that offer and just do something once and rinse and repeat over and over again by preparing the material in advance. Or you can do it one-to-many by having a group program or something like that. So information products, something that I really believe is the wave of the future for law firm owners. Lawyers just, are the epitome of somebody who's got knowledge in their head that other people want access to. And the only way that we make it available to them right now is by them engaging us to represent them, and that is a very expensive way for clients to engage us. It's sometimes overkill for what they need. So sometimes we're even doing our own damage. We're telling them, hey, look, you don't really need me because it's not going to make financial sense for you to engage me. Here's what you should go do, and you just give them marching orders, tell them go do it yourself. And some of you might be saying, well, I don't do that, but there are plenty of opportunities where that happens. And if it's not happening where you're telling them, they're figuring out on their own that they either need to do it themselves or find some other less expensive alternative. So why not give them that alternative and charge them for it? So that's been the focus of what we're talking about. And I have been working on bringing you people who are just like you, law firm owners who are finding different and unique ways to use their own knowledge to generate revenue. And that's what we're going to be bringing to you today. So June 15th, we have a one-day summit that is going to be presented. And if you want to get on the wait list, that summit is going to take you on this journey of how do I take this knowledge to my brain and put it into action. What are the steps necessary? You definitely want to put yourself on the wait list, profitwithlaw.com/waitlist. If the time that you're hearing this, it's already been open for registration, that will redirect you to the registration. So don't worry about needing to get an updated link. So profitwithlaw.com/waitlist will take you there. So now let me introduce you to our guest. Our guest is Tangi Carter. Tangi Carter owns a law practice of the same name. She's been a criminal defense attorney for 23 years, started off as a federal and state public defender, and then for the last 15 years has been running her own practice in various geographical locations. We'll allow her to give us a little bit of that background. But she founded the Peaceful Lawyer program, and she helps female law firm owners with their own business growth. And I'll let her describe to us exactly what that means and what she does. Tangi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm grateful to be here, and I love your podcast, by the way, because I've listened to every episode, I think, and I really enjoy it. I've learned a lot from you, so I appreciate what you're doing. Yeah, I have practiced for 23 years. I'm licensed in Louisiana, Florida, Tennessee, and Mississippi, and I practice primarily throughout the state of Mississippi and Louisiana. So I have a pretty busy criminal defense practice, but I saw a need early on with needing, I created this program because it's what I wish I had had when I was a young lawyer. not that we don't have access to mentors, not that we don't have access to that, but we're all super busy. I have had female lawyers or male lawyers who have helped me through the years, and I'm forever grateful to that. But this is a laser focused program so that we can help them, get them from point A to point B. If they're a solo practitioner, or whether they're in a medium to large size firm and maybe they just want to make a lateral move, there is hands-on coaching available for them to grow their practice. We're going to also be having access to our community and to some courses later in the year, and we're really excited about that part, and also some group coaching. So it's, I don't know. I found that we can be a rather pessimistic group of people sometimes, and we're not always open to that kind of thing. So I think that it's very it's very important for us to have someone that we can go to, with different problems, and not be afraid. Some of these newer lawyers that I work with, they're like, well, I know this is a dumb question. There really aren't dumb questions. We can't know everything. And we do a lot around hiring, firing, marketing, law office management. We help them implement. I use the My Case management software. There's so many other good ones, but we teach them how to use these programs. And many of the lawyers, I shouldn't say most, many lawyers I've worked with are not tech savvy, and I'm one of those. I've had to learn a lot through the years, and so we use a lot of different systems. We use G Suite. There are many law firms that are not even using they're using a Gmail account for their email. I'm sure you see that a lot. We use Acuity for scheduling. We use Google Calendar, My Case, and now all of these law firms right now are learning how to use Zoom. And that's something we've been using with our out-of-state clients for quite some time. So I think COVID-19 is making everyone really look internally to see what they can do. I love your topic of information products, because I think it's the wave of the future.
Yeah, so it's very interesting, what it is that you cover, and I want to talk a little bit more about your methodology and all of that. One of the things that I find is a lot of times law firm owners, they stand behind this thing of like, hey, we weren't taught business school in law school, right? They don't teach you how to run a law practice in law school, and therefore we're not equipped to do this. And you have to decide when you have that thought, you have that belief, you have to decide, is this something that I'm going to do something about or not? And if it's not something you're going to do something about, then heck, go get a job as a lawyer. Don't run your own business. But hiding behind an excuse of why it's not working is not going to serve you. It's not going to do you any good. So recognize the fact that, hey, I have no formal business training. I'm not about to sign up to an MBA program. So let me find a way to get educated. And you offer a program. I offer programs. We have the 90-day law firm turnaround group coaching program, where we take 90 days and we help lawyers get that foundation underneath them that they skipped, from the get-go. And the only way to access that program is by scheduling a free coaching call with me. And folks, you can go to profitwithlaw.com/free coaching if you want to take advantage of that. But the other thing that we did is we looked at it and said, okay, that's a more expensive program. Maybe somebody's not looking to make that level of investment in their business. They're too early on. They don't have access to the funds, or they just feel like they're not far enough in the process. Although, that would be a misconception, because even though I called it turnaround, even if you're brand new, having that foundation is critical to your success. But then during COVID, we introduced a membership called the Incubator, which is geared towards that attorney who's in the 0 to 250K revenue range. And it's a lot less access to me personally. It's a lot less hand-holding, but we provide a ton of support. I partnered with a technology person. I partnered with a marketing person. So Mark Homer from GNGF, Melanie Leonard from Streamline Legal, and we each come in there and do a live 1 hour session every month. So there's actually 4 calls a month they have access to, and the more people that we get in there, the more people that we're helping. But it also demonstrates what an information product can look like, right? There's so many different, there's people who sell courses where you get access to the course, you have access to it for the life of the product, or until the next revision, and you can go in there and you can consume the content, you can learn from it, and you can act on it. But then there's these other things like a membership where you're constantly paying for it, but it's a much lower ticket cost, but it provides either support or community that you desperately need as a law firm owner. And the other thing, the group coaching that I'm doing. So I know that you're doing a lot of one-on-one work, which I started with one-on-one as well. And the problem there is that you're really just trading what you're doing with your time, right? So instead of I'm spending my time representing a client, I'm now spending my time one-on-one with somebody else. Now, maybe you're able to charge more per hour, but it's not really a scalable model. So when I talk about information products, and you even alluded to the fact that you have new things coming down the road in the fall, you're introducing a group program, you're introducing some courses. So you already see that that's really where this is headed. And I want to encourage our listeners that even though Tangi decided to go and help other law firm owners, so she looked at her knowledge base and she said, okay, what do I have knowledge that I can share? And rather than looking at her criminal law background, she looked at her background as a law firm owner and harness that to sell that as her, the information she's selling. But I don't want you to think that you all have to turn into lawyer coaches in order to make this work. So, and you're going to see actually a number of the interviews I do happen to be lawyer coaches, because so far that's been the only model that you've seen. Like if you see somebody else do it and looks like they're achieving success at it, you're like, oh, hey, I could do that too. Let me do that. And I don't know, Tangi, if that's how you got started doing this. I want to ask you in a moment how that came about, because I'd be interested to see if that was what happened with you. And I mean, I don't believe any of us compete against each other. I think that we all have a specific area in the market that we fill. And when I ran the Law Firm Growth Summit back in December, we had 31 speakers. Probably 20 of them were law firm owner coaches in some way, shape, or form, if not more than that. So there's no shortage of people to turn to get help in your business. But understand that there are ways to take your practice, the knowledge that you have with what you do, and to put a product in front of your clients. So Tangi, I'd like to ask you 2 questions. The first is, how did you get into this? Like what prompted you to say, hey, this is something I can do? And the next question I'll ask it now, but in case you forget, hopefully we'll remember. I'll make a note here. But I wanted to know, I actually forgot right now. So I'll remember, answer the first question, and I'll ask you the second one.
Okay, thanks. First of all, I'd like to say I love what you're doing. And if anyone is listening, I think, I would encourage them to sign up for any of your programs that they're able to afford. That's the big thing, is time and money. Those are the big objections. But I've noticed during COVID-19, the people that are willing to invest in themselves and their law firms, they're the ones that are thriving. They're the ones whereas the other lawyers are saying, man, it's slow. I'm going to have to, stop practicing law and go work with a firm or go get a government job. Those people are the ones that are not open to change or open to asking for outside help. So I appreciate what you're doing. How I got into this is actually, it's kind of an interesting story where I noticed a need, and I was actually just doing this with lots of female lawyers in my area. And so I said, this should be like a more structured program. Like this should be something that I'm assuming that if I'm in Louisiana and Mississippi, I'm assuming if in these areas there's probably a need for this nationwide. So I really wanted to learn about the online systems and trying to reach more people throughout the United States. And that's something that I'm passionate about. For one thing, I can help more people. For another thing, I would like to eventually scale down my law practice and expand the coaching program to more people. And I, for personal reasons, I love to travel, and I would like to have more of an online system where I am maybe doing one-to-one occasionally, but that's not like you were saying, that's not my primary focus because it's not scalable. My criminal defense practice, for like say most of that practice is not scalable for one reason, for one thing that I'm currently doing. My clients, when they come in, I do have other attorneys that I contract that maybe they cover court for me because I can't be in two places at one time. But my clients, when they hire me, they're hiring me. They don't want, someone filling in for their jury trial. So it's not scalable unless like you teach, let's just say, for instance, DUI. I took something like DUI defense and did a program on, how to behave when you're pulled over, what to do in case you're pulled over for a DUI, that kind of thing. And I just think I think you're very smart to market to lawyers because we don't know what we just don't. And going through now that I'm teaching myself, I'm actually having coaches help me and teach me. It's opened my eyes to there is so much money that lawyers are leaving on the table. So I really love what you're doing.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, and also circling back to the next question I wanted to ask you, which is, have you considered creating information products for your client base, for your, your criminal defense? So for people who either have become clients or to prevent them from becoming clients, right? And if yes, what are some of the ideas that you came up with? So you just alluded to maybe you can do something about, teaching them how to behave when they get pulled over. And I honestly I think that would be like a front end lead magnet kind of thing. In other words, it's a free video that you put out there that helps you get people interested in your brand, interested in knowing you. Like that's a front end marketing tool. It probably doesn't have enough value to be able to put a price tag on it because people won't recognize the value prior to getting involved with the law. But what are some ideas that you might have come up with? I'm curious to either go through that or maybe even brainstorm with you live, just to get people's minds thinking. Because one of the things that the pushback I get is, oh, hey, I'm a criminal defense lawyer, or I'm a family law attorney, and people only come to me when they need to get divorced. So how the heck am I, putting an information product in front of them? People only come to me when they get arrested. How do I, what exactly am I going to position in front of them? And I'm curious to know if you've come up with some ideas on your own, and if not, then maybe we'll take a couple of minutes and work through that together.
A couple of things, and yeah, I'd love to work through some ideas with you. I think it would be helpful to all of your listeners and to me. One of the things I have thought about for the most part, when someone hires me, it's usually a family member who comes in. They're usually footing the bill for my services. And they have absolutely no idea. They've never, their son or daughter is not a career criminal. They've never had any experience in the system. I think something around, and I'm just thinking out loud now, but something around taking someone through procedurally through the system. And I know a lot of lawyers would balk at this and say, well, you can't do that because you're in Mississippi or you're in Louisiana and I am in California. You could do it in a more generic way that you don't have to get into the specific legalities of what the statute is in Mississippi. You could formulate a product around what happens. I mean, I teach criminal procedure at night at the local university here, and when I teach my students, I'm not teaching them Mississippi law. We're kind of running the gamut from what happens when you're arrested. How do you what does bail bonding? What does that mean? How do you get someone out of jail? You know, and I know you'll probably have some more creative ideas because that's what you do. I'm open to, let's just talk about it. I think this is exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. What the one thing I do want to say is you've already, because you've put on the hat of, hey, I serve law firm owners and I want to serve them nationally, that you're thinking that your information product needs to be national. But if your practice is geographically located, in other words, if you're just representing Mississippi clients, your information product can be strictly about Mississippi. You don't need to go broader than that. So just make that point in there. But yeah, so the way that I look at it is, there's a client journey that your client goes on, and you have to look at what happens before they need your services. So before the arrest, what does their life look like? They get arrested, what does their life look like? What's the journey that they take until they engage your services? And during that process, is there a point in time where they decide not to use you? And if that happens, is it because they're going to do something themselves, because they're going to accept a plea deal, because they're going to go to a different attorney? And that fork in the road that they have prior to engaging you is where there's an opportunity usually for you to educate them. And what happens is that if they were going to go to somebody else, or if they were going to take a plea deal and not engage you, or if they were going to do something themselves, in all three of those scenarios, you got absolutely nothing from them. And if you're not charging for consultations and you hold a consult with them, you're even spending your own time and losing that because they didn't move forward with you. So now we start to look at their journey and how can we help them in that process. So with criminal law, I'm going to turn the table back to you, Tangi. So using that framework, what are the options that they have during that decision-making process, and what are the reasons that somebody might not engage you?
Well, first of all, it's so different from how it was when I first started out. You know, I'm old enough that the internet wasn't a big thing back then, and so it was all organic referrals, you know, from other lawyers or other clients. Nowadays, before they ever step foot in my office, they are Googling me. They are checking me out. They're finding out, you know, what does she do? Does she have a blog? Does she have what's on her website? And I mean, I have had clients that have literally come into my office and have recited some things off of my webpage, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you know, I better go make sure everything is out there that I want out there. But it's I would say one thing that this is one way lawyers definitely leave money on the table, and they're not reaching out to technology. We have a system in place where if jury returns a verdict of not guilty, I get a case dismissed. Something great happens in their case. I win a motion hearing. I get them released. I get the bond lowered and I get them released. We have a system in place where it makes it very easy for them to give us a review on Google. And when you look at the reviews on my page compared to other people in this state, it's mind blowing, because I don't know why people aren't doing that. That's very simple. That's right. But getting them in the door, you're so right. Getting them from the, you know, Google research to in the door, the client, you know, putting myself in their shoes, let's just say, say DUI defense, the client is going to need to know, that's who I go to. She is the DUI lawyer. She is the one that knows these judges. She is the one that knows these prosecutors. And the only way for the average person to know that is really online. What do I have out there that says that about me? And like what you were saying, it could be packaged courses, it could be my blog, it could be, I mean, a simple website, obviously, but I, I, I've even had clients say, "Well, I don't really know anything about technology, and I don't know how to do a review," because we deal with people that are maybe in the throes of addiction or alcoholism, and they're having a lot of personal issues when they come to see me. So maybe doing a Google review is not at the top of their list of things to do. So we try to make it really easy for anybody.
Yeah, not maybe we'll have you back at another opportunity to go through what that process is. We're not going to have enough time on this interview to cover it, but we did do, I believe it's episode 49. We had Sam Malaya here on the podcast. Sam has over, I think at this point it's like 1,500 Google reviews. I know when he went over 1,200, so he's got a lot of Google reviews, and he shared his process. Not only did he do that, so on the audio podcast, it's a little bit difficult to follow because he actually did a screen share with me and showed me his process. And we made that video available in the last summit in December when we sold the All Access Pass. We gave a bonus, which was video access to some of our video interviews of the podcast. So that's the only way that you were able to get access to that. And actually, if you join my group coaching program, the 90-day law firm turnaround group coaching program, I grant you access to the All Access Pass. So you could have access to it that way. But maybe we'll create other opportunities for you to get access to it. But he shared where basically it's not only educating them on how to do it, but it's also just persistence and continuing to reach out to them and remind them to do it. And it's like that with anything, right? So when you're selling, and I apologize for the dog barking in the background. It is what it is. Somebody's at my door and you're just going to hear it. If you have a good pair of headphones in, you're definitely hearing my dog. And I'm really sad, by the way. My dog's name is Rascal Flatts. So this was supposed to be, Rascal Flatts decided that they're going to stop touring, and this year was supposed to be their last tour, and they just canceled their tour. So we just lost our opportunity to see them live one last before they hung it up and stayed home. So we'll see what they do. Maybe they'll come around next year, but we're definitely, my wife and I, big fans of the group, and country fans in general. Totally off track here. So going back, from the little bit that you shared, I see an opportunity, not so much for an expensive course, like it not for somebody who's going to say, oh, I'm going to go do this myself, and now I'm going to give them like $1,000 product that's going to teach them how to do it themselves instead of paying me $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 to represent them. But I see an opportunity for you to position a very low priced offer, maybe like a $47 product that is a combination of teaching them how to navigate the system, but more importantly, how to select their attorney, right? So if you position that product where they're searching for a solution and they come across your $47 course that's going to teach them, and you make it very specific to who you're trying to reach. So if it's DUI in Mississippi, then you're going to say that you're gonna call it like the 5-step guide to navigating DUI and to navigating DUI defense in Mississippi, or something like that, or the 5-step process to get out of a DUI charge in Mississippi. And you're just going to have this video training that doesn't need to be very long, but you're going to show them how the system works. You're going to navigate it, and if the person buying this is a family member, which generally it sounds like that's what it is, you'll talk to them about how to be there for their family member, or what steps they could take outside of the law, to help with the addiction problem, or to get them the other help that they need, but also to lay out the system for them. But the key is that when you're in training mode, right, you can lay all the foundational seeds to draw them to you as the representative for their family member. So the point there is not to get the $47. Obviously, you want to just use that money to pay for your marketing, help liquidate that, but it's going to give you a leg up in the process of making them a client of yours, where they're convinced because you've already talked about the various judges in your video. You've already talked about your past client experiences. You've already talked about how to select an attorney, and you gave them the criteria that you check all the boxes on. And you know that there's a lot of people who are not checking the boxes on. You're going to tell them go look at reviews. They might not have known to look at reviews. They might not have even realized that there are reviews for attorneys. And you're going to tell them, hey, go look at your Google reviews and make sure that your attorney's getting good reviews. There aren't people who are saying negative things about them. And they're going to go and do those things. And the first person they're going to check is you. And so you're going to check those boxes, and it's just going to lead them closer to being able to engage your services. But I definitely see it as a more simple product. I mean, that's just one idea right off the top, just from this conversation, of what you can do to use information product, not just to provide information. It's going to save a ton of time in the beginning when you start working with them, because you don't need to explain to them all these things. They've already gone through this product, which is another place where you could think about putting it. So this could go either way, right? So if you charge for your time and per hour, and you're spending all this time explaining to them how the system works, that could be part of your thing, right? That's part of how you represent your client. But I would think that every attorney wants to give their client the best outcome with the least cost possible. And you just have an open mind that you can fit more clients in your roster if you do that, right? So if you create information products for post-sale to teach your clients the different things that you're going to have to explain to them manually, and now you tell them, look, once you engage me, I'm going to give you access to this, and you are required, before we talk in person or on the phone the next time, you are required to demonstrate to me that you went through this material. And you just make that part of your process, where now you're in front of them, educating them. They're going to be much more willing to work with you. They're going to be more likely to show up for appointments. There's going to be a totally different experience in the way that you work with them. So there's so many different ways to position information products in the way that you're running your practice, even if it's not an alternative to your services, rather a augmentation or supplementation of your services.
I love that. What I think my lawyers that I work with deal with the most is that they do not address client expectations up front. And what you just said, as far as incorporating the video into, your package, okay, I'm going to charge you $2,500 to represent you for this DUI. And you're also going to get access to this video. I want you to see this before we meet the next time. That is genius, because that, number one, you appear to be the leader in the community for that type of practice. You're the DUI lawyer, basically. And number two, you've set expectations. If you, one thing we're really passionate about is, if someone calls here, we return the call within 24 hours. I'm sure you hear that so much, that there are a lot of lawyers out there that just don't do it. And I don't understand that. So that's the biggest client complaint, is that my lawyer won't call me back. My lawyer won't give me an update on the case. So having that expectation set on the front end is really integral to a successful practice, because a lot of my clients come from referrals from other clients, other happy clients. So you're not going to get that if you're going to drop the ball every time. And one thing I wanted to circle back to is that when you said that most lawyers, we don't have the business training, that is so, I hear that so much. And I know maybe 2 or 3 people that may have gotten their MBA at the same time as their law degree, but even then it's not practical business experience. So what you're doing is so important, because we come into this, most of the women that I work with, they say, well, I just want to practice law. I don't want to look at the books. I don't want to look at marketing. I don't want to. Well, sorry, you have to. I mean, there's no way around it. Like you said earlier, you need to go work for another entity if you're not going to learn the key steps to running a business. And it's just so important. So again, I love what you're doing.
Yeah, and I just wanted to take a moment. I mean, we're really at the tail end of this interview, but we are in the same group together. So I probably not enough about a mentor of mine. So I'm in a high level coaching program with a guy by the name of James Wedmore. James Wedmore has a podcast called Mind Your Business, and he's an absolute genius when it comes to information products, when it comes to marketing your information products, getting in front of your customer, and really getting them to be interested in what you have to offer. Setting it up in a way that it becomes a no brainer for them to say yes to what it is that you're offering and selling, and um, he has a program called Business by Design, which is essentially it's a toolbox of the entire roadmap of how to position information products in the marketplace and how to create them and how to market them. And it's his program is primarily designed for somebody who's looking for this to be their primary business. In other words, they're going to replace whatever they're doing with the information product business, and but it can be used by every attorney that I cross paths with to really, really boost the revenue. I mean, like if you're doing 250,000 in service-based business, you can probably bring in 500,000 in information product revenue just from the people who are not engaging you, or just from adding something to the beginning of the process for the clients who are already going to engage you down the road. And it improves your sales, it improves your image in the marketplace. There's just so much to it. So I wanted to ask you, because I'm going to no, there's no secrets here. I'm doing a one-day summit on June 15th to take people on this journey. But at the end, I'm going to introduce you to James Wedmore, and I'm going to tell you, hey, look, he sells his program only once a year, and he's selling it right now. And I'm encouraging you to go and join that program, because that is going to be the ticket to your success. So if you can take a moment and just tell us a little bit about your experience in his program, Business by Design, and what that's done for your information products business. I'm sure it probably helped your law firm too, but what it did with your, to help you with your information products business would be amazing if you could share that experience.
Sure. First of all, I know that most people listening to your podcast are probably open. They're open to these ideas, or they wouldn't be listening to this. So that's the first thing. If you have never listened to the Mind Your Business podcast and you don't know anything about James Wedmore, look it up right now. And it's just an amazing program. I joined in October, and since I joined the program, I've noticed that with COVID-19, he's just opened up so much more training and so many more. We've had weekly coaching calls, which have been, I mean, invaluable to my business and what I'm doing with my coaching program and with my law firm. There are actually more lawyers in that. I didn't expect to see a lot of lawyers in that program, because I thought, we're just kind of a jaded group. We're not open to new ideas. But there are a lot of lawyers in his program, and it's helping me. I'm building a community around my Peaceful Lawyer program. I'm building courses. He takes you through these as if, I mean, he's not talking down to you, but he's taking, for someone like me who, like I've already said, I'm not tech savvy, I can take his program and run with it, with just that, just having access to those modules. It's amazing to me. It's opened my eyes to so many things, because without him, I would not have met you. I wouldn't have met several other people that have been such positive changes for my business, for both my criminal practice and my coaching business. I like what James does around, you're building your business online, but around your mindset. I deal with that a lot with the people that I coach. They're like, well, I don't mind. I know that I know my area of practice. I know that I know estate planning, but it's just when we get to that point of asking the client for money, that's where they get hung up. And I'm like, you know, you need to know your value. And that's something through a lot, you know, he has the Mind Your Money portion of his program that was just amazing to me. And, you know, I went through that, and you actually realize where you are, what you really think of yourself as far as what your worth is. So it's helped me immensely in my law practice and in my other coaching business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great. Thank you so much, Tangi, for sharing that. And it's true. There are a number of attorneys in there, but honestly, there's not enough. Like, there's, you know, and I will say that most of the attorneys that are in there are second careering. In other words, they did a pivot out of law to do what they're doing, you know, with their business there. There's one person that, you know, that I can think of right now that is going to be a guest on this podcast, Bobby Klink, who stayed within the law, but he shut his law practice. And he basically is serving one specific community by providing legal templates and things like that to them. So he's taken his information and found a way to scale it. There's another one in there, Joey Vitale, who's going to be a guest on the podcast here. And Joey has done a really good job of placing an information product in his pipeline. So he does trademark and I don't know if he does patents, but he's a trademark attorney, and he has a course teaching you how to do your own trademark. So he positions them together side by side, which is a beautiful way to do it. And you can spend the money on this course. I think he charges $500 for the course and maybe like $1,700 for a trademark. So there's that gap. Somebody who's doing multiple trademarks, it starts to make a lot of sense for them to think about doing it on their own. I'm sure in his course, I haven't gone through his course, but I'm sure in his course, he explains to you why you would need an attorney to represent you, and people who can afford it might be convinced during that training to move back to using him. And then I don't know if he does this. I'll ask him when I interview him, but I'm sure that he takes the money you spent on the course and then puts that towards your services that you're doing with him, which is a really good way to position these two off of each other. So I love what you're doing, but you know, I want to bring it back full circle and just make everybody aware that this doesn't mean that you need to close your law firm down. It doesn't mean you need to, pivot, go in a different direction. That's not where I'm trying to convince you to go. It's not where I want to open your eyes to the fact that there's so many advantages to taking your knowledge and figuring out a way to sell it that does not require your ongoing time dedicated to providing that knowledge. And that can be used as an alternative path. It could be used to augment the journey. It could be used to fill a need within the engagement when you're engaged with a client, when you actually have somebody that's an active matter. There could be places where an information product could be beneficial to taking things off of your plate, especially if you've listened to the other stuff that I talk about, which is going to flat fee, going to some sort of subscription model, figuring out a way to not tie the work that you're doing in the practice to the specific hours that are being spent. Now you can start to take these pieces of information and position them at different places in the journey to eliminate the actual time that's being invested by you and your staff to handhold a client through a process. And you can get tons of hours back doing that. So there's so many different ways to position this, to look at it. And I love this idea and this concept. And that's why I've decided to dedicate an entire month to talking about it, because you already have leads coming in. There are people who are saying no. There's opportunity everywhere for you to just collect more dollars in the process, and it doesn't require you to start another practice area. It doesn't require you to change what you're doing. It just requires you to understand the concept and then to invest in the knowledge required to just implement it, which is it's really not that hard at all.
I love that. And the information products, the people that are willing to be open to doing that are going to be the law firms that are successful. Many firms are right now saying, well, I'm going to have to learn how to do bankruptcy cases because that's all that's going to happen after COVID-19. You're going to spend more time learning another area of practice when you could do what you're saying to do, package the knowledge you already have into a methodology to get clients in the door. I mean, that's coming from someone who wouldn't even, a year ago, I didn't even know what going live on Facebook meant. I didn't know what any of that meant. If I can learn it, anyone can learn it. So again, I love what you're teaching.
All right, Tangi, any parting words of wisdom that you want to share with the audience, as well as how they can follow up with you if they want to connect and take a next step with you?
Sure. You can find me at thepeacefullawyer.com. I've also got a Facebook page and Instagram at The Peaceful Lawyer on both of those. And I would just like to say, invest time and money in yourself. If you're not willing to do that, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it in this post-COVID world. It's just not going to happen. So whether it's with a coach, whether it's with a program, whether it's with a community or group coaching, do it. That's all I can say. It's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Awesome. Tangi, thank you so much for joining me here on the podcast. Folks, another amazing interview in the bag. Love everything that Tangi's doing. And please connect with her at thepeacefullawyer.com. And until next time, let's just keep our eye on the prize. Profit is the name of the game. And we just want to make sure that we're not saying no to opportunities that are knocking on our door. And that's what I'm trying to do with you this month. Take care. Have you been enjoying the show? We sure hope so. To make sure you never miss an episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player app. Next week, we will be back with more valuable resources and ideas on how to break the mold and take your law firm to the next level.